I was really interested in ChatGPT's new study and learn feature. So in this video, I'm just going to kind of see what the experience is like learning about a topic that's very relevant in healthcare, moral hazard. Um, I've got my full prompt here at the beginning. This is the first time I've used this feature, so we're going to work through it live together. I just said that I'm trying to better understand the topic of moral hazard in healthcare insurance. It asked me a few questions here, and I gave a rambling response. I actually don't know much off the cuff about moral hazard if I have to speak about it. So this is what I've gotten after requesting a concise refresher. And I think this does a nice job. What I want to do is kind of continue to dig in with voice mode and see how this progresses. So we'll do that now. Hey, so I want to dig in a little bit deeper on this idea of moral hazard. Can you give me an example of how that might apply that's very simple and for me to also use to teach someone else about the topic?
Sure. Let's break it down with this simple, relatable example. Imagine someone gets a new health insurance plan that covers all prescription medications at no out-of-pocket cost. Before, when they had a small copay for each prescription, they might have thought twice before filling a brand name medication if a generic was available. Now, with no cost at all, they might just go for the brand name drug every time, even if it's not necessarily more effective. This increased utilization of more expensive medications without a corresponding increase in health outcomes is a classic example of moral hazard. You could also think about it in terms of doctor's visits. If there's no copay, patients might schedule more appointments for minor issues that they might have otherwise managed at home.
So how do insurers use moral hazard when they're making decisions around networks or pricing?
Great question. Insurers definitely take moral hazard into account when designing their networks and pricing strategies. For instance, they might create a tiered network where some providers are considered preferred because they deliver high quality care at a lower cost. By encouraging patients to use the preferred providers, often by offering lower copays or better coverage, they help reduce unnecessary utilization and keep costs down. On the pricing side, insurers use things like deductibles, copays, and coinsurance to make sure that patients share in the cost of their care. This cost sharing helps ensure that patients have some skin in the game, so they think twice before seeking low value or unnecessary care. It's all about striking a balance between making healthcare accessible and preventing overuse.
Yeah, it seems like a little bit of implementing friction for the consumer, in this case the patient, to seek out healthcare to prevent overutilization. Do I have that right?
Exactly. You got it. It's essentially about adding just enough friction so that patients and even providers make more thoughtful decisions about when and how to utilize healthcare resources. It doesn't mean making care inaccessible, but rather encouraging more mindful use.
Okay, and what you mentioned deductible. Can you just very succinctly define deductible for me, assuming that I have never heard the word before?
Absolutely. A deductible is the amount of money you have to pay out of pocket for your healthcare services before your insurance starts covering the costs. Once you've paid that initial amount, your insurance kicks in and starts paying its share.
Okay. So I think that we have the opportunity to use this kind of tool to learn all kinds of topics. What I would do now, probably, wanting to have taken the knowledge that I've learned from this exchange and eventually pass that knowledge on to someone else, I'm going to ask for a lesson plan. This was a great exchange. What I want to do is create a very succinct and easy to understand lesson plan for someone learning about moral hazard. I think that we can include some key definitions from our conversation around the mechanisms of how insurers account for moral hazard and practical examples so that somebody could better understand the topic. I would also love to have one or two problems, almost like a homework assignment within this lesson plan. Okay, now I think this is not bad. It put together a little bit of a lesson plan for me here. And I'm not going to read through it or anything like that in the video, but what I will do is I'll include it in the article for my Techie Surgeon Substack. And my next step here, if I was going to be teaching this topic, would probably be to expand on some of these different aspects, right, and go on a deeper dive. I do think that I am not as familiar with this topic, so for me to verify this information is sort of the next step. But a very cool feature. I think that I could definitely see myself using it to learn new topics. Still wanting to understand how it's different from just having a conversational exchange with GPT on voice mode or prompting in sort of a serial fashion. Um, Let me know what you think about the feature. If there's anybody else using this for other use cases, I'd love to hear about how it made a difference for you understanding a new topic, whether it's in health, AI, or something else altogether.